my name's Breane, and today I'm going to be just telling you a little bit of my journey with the question of what does a literacy teacher mean to me? What does being a literacy teacher mean to me? I've always been really passionate about reading books, writing poetries and short stories, and keeping a journal for my personal life. It's hard to say really what made me like reading and writing so much in the first place. I often think I have my dad to thank for my love of books because he was always reading around us to myself and my little sister, but who really knows? This year, I started my own a book a month challenge, which in the month of May hasn't been going so well, but that's okay. And I've got my own hashtag that I kind of use to keep track of it, which is hashtag Breane's Year of Books. It's just a fun way to keep track of what I'm reading. I also love surrounding myself with inspirational words wherever I can find them. So around my house, in my day planner, on my laptop screensaver, all kinds of things. English 1 has impacted me so profoundly because it's made me realise that these passions I have in my personal life are actually all elements of literacy, and that means I can transfer them into my teaching. English 1 has shown me that in-depth text analysis is not only something for HSC Year 12 students, which, as you can see, I used to do a lot of eating during my HSC, blueberries, Mars bars, anything in between, but it's also something, in-depth text study is also something that you can do in a K-2 classroom. Who would have thought? I have personally learnt so much about the practical ways to teach, especially from picture books. Just before I continue, I'd just like to say I'm super excited about creating a learning space with my students in the future. I want it to be comfortable, I want it to be fun, colourful, engaging. I want their artworks to be displayed everywhere, and also their literacy work to be displayed everywhere, writing, illustrating, all of that goodies. I was tested for probably half a dozen different things through my primary school life because of this. This experience left me feeling like I was actually quite dumb, and spelling was probably my greatest insecurity, and it might still be today, but I'm working on that one. There you go, I thought that was quite relevant. But just before starting senior high school, I had a very simple yet challenging and empowering experience. One of my English teachers said to me very simply, "Your ideas are great, Breane." And I'm going to play this clip as I talk because even though it might sound corny, this is exactly how I felt. She expressed to me that ideas are invaluable, and spelling for me was what I was focused on, and spelling was only just one way of how I actually express those ideas. And she said, you know, you can use the resources around you to learn to spell better, but it's really hard to impart actual ideas like that off someone. So I don't know, when I saw this video I just thought, yeah, that really seems corny, but that's exactly how I felt in that experience. So yeah, that sparked my interest and confidence in my studies, in uni, in creative life, in so many more areas that I just wouldn't have had otherwise. I found it interesting to watch the huge difference in passions for reading on my two pracs in very different age groups. My first prac I did was in a kindy class, and their passion for reading was really varied from format to format. The children loved read-alouds, but when it came to doing parent-helper readers, they seemed really less exciting. The read-alouds happened now and then, but the readers happened every day. Why do we do this to children? Reading should be always fun. I have 6 composite class, and they hated library time. It made me so sad. I love libraries, and this class really didn't like library time. And they generally weren't engaged in personal reading. Reading was something that was forced upon them and was unpleasant to do. Something positive did include that they loved writing recounts to stimuli, such as an image or an unfinished sentence. And they read these stories to each other during a time that they would have once or twice a week called the author's chair, where kids would sit on this special chair and read out their published works to the class. And that I really, really loved. In my future classroom, I want it to be a space where I can empower children in my class to see themselves as an author, an illustrator, a poet, a lyricist, and everything in between when it comes to their ability to engage in literacy. I want my students to see that literacy is an avenue for bringing their ideas to life and to make their dreams tangible through story writing, designing, experimenting, illustrating, and many other things. The Australian curriculum states that some students move slowly between levels or may remain at one level of learning on the continuum throughout their schooling. There's that quote there. It then goes on to explain that's the teacher's responsibility to plan and support with the experience of the curriculum and literacy. As a teacher, I'm committed to supporting my students' journeys of learning, particularly with literacy, being encouraging and seeing the potential in each student. One way that I really want to do this is with book clubs. I want to have them as a regular part of my classroom. I believe that they bring an element of empowerment in the way that they seem so adult-like. I know for me, book clubs was always something I thought the grown-ups did. But I do believe that the more you trust your students, and the more you tell them how intelligent you know they are, this might be even before they've reached an achievement or an outcome, the more the students rise to meet that belief you have in them. This is the power we have as educators, and book clubs, I believe, help us show our students all of these things. Book clubs also provide dozens and dozens of different learning experiences for the students, which builds confidence and collaboration in groups. And that's something that I really want to have as my literacy classroom. I don't want to be the kind of literacy teacher who solely looks at the foundation for literacy as phonics. I believe it's important to teach from a whole text in order for students to be learning skills together rather than in isolation. This will help in particular with fluency and comprehension as the literacy skills develop. In the classroom, I plan to have a huge range of books for all reading abilities in my class library that students can access pretty much at any time. Ideally, this library would be a combination of books I've collected over the years, books my students love to read, and books from the school library on loan. I would love to have a read aloud a day, most likely first thing in the morning, because picture books are a vital part not only for teaching literacy but also teaching a range of aspects in social and emotional learning. Depending on the age group, I would also love to have a read aloud novel such as Narnia series that we follow as a class, maybe over a few weeks, months, or even a term. This would provide a great opportunity for discussion and activities in class. Audiobooks can also be used for these harder novels for kids who are struggling, but it also exposes students to amazingly creative writing, lots of descriptive words, and fun characters. To support literacy skills in speaking and listening in my classroom, I would love to have a ritual as having circle time at the beginning of every day. Again, this provides opportunity for social and emotional learning and develops speaking and listening skills. It's a great aspect of literacy. It also helps students learn to share and engage with their peers in new ways without feeling like they're being assessed as they would if they had to do a presentation, for example, in front of the class. I would also love to take my students on excursions to help spark the passion for all things literacy. I love poetry readings and would be definitely keeping an eye out for opportunities like read alouds from authors at the local public library or things like that to take my students to. The social model of literacy has really changed my perspective on the need to teach reading and writing in school. The very name of the model, social, tells me straight away that it really isn't something we need to be doing alone. I always see I also see the more to the story that our lecturer Edie for English 1 often refers to as greatly impacting on the social model of literacy. For each student, they come with a different background, experience and outlook on their learning, and the social model of literacy shows us that our home, community, school and media all form a part of this more to the story that creates each student's context from which they are learning and participating in literacy. If we're reading the same book as a class, we can draw on each other's context, knowledge and experience when discussing the book and doing book clubs. Thank you so much for following this small part of my journey. I'm looking forward to learning and growing more and more as a teacher teaching literacy. I hope that some of my ideas about my future classroom, inspirations, and things that I've drawn upon can help you as well along your journey to become the most effective, kind, and passionate literacy teacher you can be.